With artisans and domestic, that the process is simplified
There's renewed attention to the delayed implementation of the most recent initiative in the Caribbean single market, the widening of free movement of CARICOM nationals to artisans and domestics. A new project, this time led by civil society, could pave the way for artisans and household domestics to seek opportunities in the CSME. The Caribbean Policy Development Center has begun a series of meetings aimed at removing the remaining barriers to freedom of movement for artisans and domestics. In Barbados, for a two-day meeting, the first stop of a CPDC project making CSME work for artisans and domestics, the CPDC brought together the key players involved in facilitating the freedom of movement for these categories of workers. The CPDC's executive coordinator is Shantal Munro-Knight.
We are seeking to bring what we consider to be the key players involved in facilitating the freedom of movement regime under the single market and economy together to discuss how we can ensure that the regime will really work, will really be one that is owned by the people who have to use it. And in particular, our target groups are artisans and domestics. And we believe that these are people who need to be able to understand and feel empowered in order for them to be able to use the regime. So these two groups were two of the last groups that were conferred with the right to move, but as yet, the full legislative and administrative framework has not been developed. And our aim here is to try to, again, work with the key players to see how can we ensure that that regime is set up to facilitate them so that they can enjoy their rights. Importantly as well, we want a process in which the people who actually have to be able to use the regime also get a say in designing the regime. And I think that is innovative. That we are saying that domestics and artisans have a voice and that they should be heard in the context of how they should be facilitated to be able to move. The regime has to be able to make sense. It has to be user-friendly. To move, and that will ensure that they have...
Barbados is the first of 5 countries in the project, along with Trinidad and Tobago, Jamaica, Guyana, and St. Kitts and Nevis. The workshops are examining the challenges experienced so far in introducing the free movement regime and how best to remove the remaining obstacles. The CPDC will be reaching out directly to artisans and domestics as the project hits the road.
Part of this national workshop here in Barbados, but our intention is that this project is going to be undertaken in 5 countries. So those countries are Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, Guyana, St. Kitts and Nevis, and like I said before, Barbados. But even though we are looking at those 5 countries, we are hoping that the lessons to be learned can be extrapolated for the entire region, because the regime is for everybody that has to be able to use it. So we believe that this is an important process for the entire region in terms of facilitating the access that is needed for artisans and domestics to be able to move. And what we've been hearing already from key players at the CSME unit is that they are very interested in what this process will yield as lessons learned for the entire process going forward. So that after this, we will be hopefully moving on to Trinidad, like I said, Jamaica, etc., and replicating this process. I also want to add that this is not just about having a workshop per se, but the intention is that from each national workshop, we are going to be selecting representatives to form a regional working group, that will be responsible for harnessing the recommendations and the issues that come out of the national processes now into development of a full, again, regional work plan as well. Importantly, in all of our project countries, we'll be engaging the media, because we believe that the media is a very key partner in this process. We will also be talking to domestics and artisans directly, again, in all of the project countries in order to be able to facilitate the process.
This series of workshops hopes to reach consensus on an action plan for improving the free movement regime for artisans and household domestics, and set up a regional working group that will examine recommendations and action plans developed in each of the 5 pilot countries.